Welcome to Is Franchising Right for You? With your host, Rick Morgin. Through each episode, we'll demystify preconceived notions about franchising, both entrepreneurs franchising and those buying a franchise. You can find this show on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Now here's the host of Is Franchising Right for You? Rick Morgin.
Welcome, Leo.
Hello.
Hello. It's a privilege to have someone with your wealth of experience as a guest, and I really appreciate it.
My pleasure to be here.
My just to let you know, my objective with this podcast is to expose all facets and educate the listeners about franchising. So I've got franchisors, franchisees who are clients, experts like yourself, management consultants, peers, people in the finance arena and the legal arena as guests throughout this whole series. And I'm trying to expose franchising through the telling of stories. And I'm sure you have plenty. We actually connected a little over 2 years ago. I looked at my CRM. It was a little over 2 years ago. And I will say I was not ready to appreciate the value of your connection at that time. When I did my email blast announcing our September franchise journal, you responded, said, "Hey, we should connect." I didn't realize you had such a great following, such a huge following for different mediums. And I think it's important that you tell our audience how you've gotten involved into franchising, what you do now, and then we can go on to other topics and questions.
Okay. I started a construction company when I was 17 years old. I had to renovate a house that I had just bought to create second income. And the construction company started by accident because I was building basement apartments. And again, I was never planning on starting a construction company. I just needed to finish a basement so I could get positive cash flow. It was that simple. Then the neighbor came over and said, "Leo, what are you doing? All the windows have newspaper, all the doors have newspaper. Like, it sounds like you're running a drug operation or something illegal here." And I said, "No, but come in, let me show you what I'm doing." And I said, "By the way, we can do exactly the same thing for you. And you can have a total stranger pay 70% of your mortgage. When your house is free and clear, kick him out. Now you have a free and clear house." He loved the idea. He brought me the first five clients, and that's how the construction business started. Then I realized that as we're building basements, and by the way, I created some problems for myself, and I started thinking, who the hell is going to hire a 17-year-old? And I thought, well, maybe I should solve that problem, because while I was working on the first five clients that knew my dad, knew my neighbor, and they were the credibility for me, I said, well, eventually he's going to run out of people to refer me. So who's going to be the face of the company? Who the hell is going to hire a 17-year-old to finish their basement? Right. So I thought, okay, because I hate working with my hands, and my uncle is now framing the basement that I started. And I started working with my hands for 50 minutes and said, hate working with my hands. So my uncle became the framer and the face of the company. And I thought, okay, what other problems can he solve for me that I haven't created yet? So then after we were building, and by the way, building basement apartments 45 years ago was totally illegal. And we literally had the mayor and the police hunting me down because we were creating something that, after the tip, eventually there's so many people, they can't get rid of it. And luckily, we happened to get enough competition building basement apartments before I got arrested. Then we got past the point of no return. But then we started building basement apartments. And, so I'm sure everybody can understand building a kitchen in the basement. You have to break concrete, bring the supply lines and the sewer lines and everything in. So we're building beautiful kitchens, bathrooms, and we're cutting out staircases and to the backyard to create entrances into the basement. And now we're trying to renovate the whole house because I hate leaving money on the table. right? Hate leaving money on the table. So now I'm trying to communicate with the client and say, well, we built your beautiful basement. And a lot of the comments we used to get, the basement is so nice, I feel like moving downstairs because it's nicer than my upstairs. And I would use that as an opening to say, well, why don't we start renovating the upstairs? We can give you a brand new kitchen and brand new bathrooms and flooring and paint and so on. We can create a brand new house up there, right? Well, you guys are great at building basements, but what do you know about building kitchens? And that would always frustrate me, right? And I would explain it's much easier upstairs than it is down here. We don't have to break concrete upstairs, and we can give you a really nice kitchen upstairs. So we were starting to be seen as jack of all trades and master of none. And that's when we started thinking about franchising, right? Because we wanted to have crews to specialize in each of the products. Like kitchen guys only did kitchens. Bathroom guys only did bathrooms, and so on. So we created 22 different franchises, and that's how we started the franchise concept. And since then, we've started 8 franchise concepts from scratch. So I'm a firm believer in franchising.
So are all of the franchises that you started from scratch, the 8, in the home service, property service type of industry?
Most of them was. Our second was a tow truck franchise of all things. A tow truck franchise, because they came to me and I got a connection through one of my guys who was maintaining our vehicles, and he knew people in the truck and the diesel repair, and they ran tow trucks. And we got into a conversation once, and I said, why are you guys just towing out of in the city? Why don't you get the contracts to tow off major highways? Oh no, you need to have connections and you need to be able to tow right across Canada. So I thought, okay, what if we unite 100 or 1,000 franchises, towing franchises, to band together so now they can tow off major 400 series highways, right? So we created that franchise to solve a problem. And the problem was, there were too many small independents and not a major one that could attack the majors that were doing it at that point. So that's how it started.
Well, that creates the opportunity when you have a very fragmented marketplace, and regardless of the service, if you can consolidate and then start to expand, I mean that's franchising itself.
Exactly.
Do you still own those your 8 franchises?
Well, no, I sold my first business when I was 25. That's the first time I retired 4 times already. I love business. I love talking about business, talking with entrepreneurs and creating strategies. I love coming up with the concepts, say, here's the concept, go do it. Then someone, my staff, my people, create the business blueprint, the differentiation, branding and differentiation, and that unique structure. Then we hire people, we hire brokers to help us in the franchise end of things. But we don't specialize in franchising. But I believe when we design the business blueprint, the exit strategy is always part of the blueprint. And either it's a franchise model, or you exit and you sell it generally to syndicates and investors who are thinking of franchising. But franchising is always part of the business blueprint because I think it's the fastest way to bring capital infusion into a company. So I thoroughly believe in franchising.
I agree. I mean, you're finding vested partners whose interests are aligned, whose skills are aligned, and you're confident that they can build your brand. But it really just sounds like you hate to retire.
Well, 2 divorces. I don't have a life. My life is business. So you're right. You're right. And I keep thinking about people who say, well, how are you going to control quality with franchising? I mean, obviously those people don't understand franchising, because instead of paying your employees, what if you could get your employees to pay you, right? If someone pays you $100,000 or $50,000 or $150,000 to buy your concept, are they vested? Do they have a vested interest in your concept, right? They're putting their life savings into it. Of course, they're going to control quality because no one else has a more vested interest than someone that pays a huge amount of money to be part of your system. So
Yeah, I mean, it is the balance between having a vested partner versus, well, am I going to onboard this entire staff as my own? And the franchising model creates the opportunity outside of the marketplace. I'm really glad you're a proponent of the franchise model. With all your experience, with everything you've seen in business, if you maybe you can't tell us, maybe you can't tell the audience, but what is ripe for franchising now? What would you look to start?
Actually, as you know, we have a TikTok show on every day at 12 noon Eastern time where we talk about exactly that. We have the top 10 most profitable businesses. We have the top 10 most profitable businesses to create quality of life. We have top 10 online businesses. We have a lot of businesses, but a lot of these businesses are service-based businesses, such as mobile detailing, car detailing, interior design, kitchen painting businesses. And these are all franchise concepts. So yeah, I put my heart and soul out there. The reason why we have millions of followers and we have people joining the live is because we give away the farm every day. I believe in helping people. And when you help people, first of all, it gives you the greatest joy on earth by helping people. And people are grateful when people get information and they start using the information, they get a little bit of momentum. Now they're coming back because now they're really hungry for additional knowledge. And if they know that they can trust you and you're helping them free of charge, yeah, they'll come back.
Oh, definitely, and that's my model too. And so it sounds like by helping them, you go over the pluses and the minuses, the do's and the don'ts of getting into a franchise. Just kind of education before even introducing them to a concept or referring them to somebody else.
Yes. And a lot of people come to us and say, Leo, what do you think of this franchise? Leo, what do you think of this franchise? Leo, what do you think of this? And I should say that I'm not a fan of restaurants, but I am somewhat fan of restaurant franchising because if you look at the failure rate in average restaurants, I mean, it's just, you build a restaurant. We get so many questions about restaurants and coffee shops and stuff like that. And people say, should I start a restaurant? And when you think about it, it costs you $800,000 or $1 million to build a restaurant. Then 2 years later, you're selling it for $198,000. So am I going to endorse something like that? Not necessarily, right? Unless you're looking to design a franchise concept and you have a proven strategy to beat the odds, right? Because the failure rate in restaurants is less than 10%. Average restaurants is closer to 98, 99%. So if you look at purely statistics, you are a fool for not looking at, if you insist on restaurants and you don't look at a restaurant franchise model, then I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for your family, actually.
You're, candidates, people interested in franchising, sometimes prefer food, beverage, restaurants, quick serve.
Food trucks, and there's a lot of demand for food trucks.
Sounds like you're well, certainly you're not necessarily endorsing it, but you're encouraging people to take a look at the track record. Make sure that they have a proven track record first, if you're going to investigate even further.
Yes, and the way we come up with the top 10 lists is for the past 40 years, we've been dissecting and analyzing companies. I used to average 5 flights a week, flying around all over North America, looking at financials, interviewing key people, interviewing all employees, and getting a true picture of the business. Because what the owner generally tells us and the actual picture very rarely align, right? Because what he believes is reality and what financials say is reality are not always the same. So these numbers, these companies that we encourage you to start come from a solid foundation of 10, 20, 30, 40 years of financials.
Yes, but then if you go back to when you were 17,
mm-hmm. Yes, an idiot. Yes.
You created something that was franchisable, and the entrepreneurship's in your DNA, of course, but that's how ideas start.
Yes, but
That's how businesses and franchise, non-franchise models start. You start doing something, people notice, people ask, it starts to build momentum. Now you got a business model that can be replicated.
yeah, but it was still trial and error. If I keep telling my clients, if I could invent a time machine to go back in time, I would go and find myself when I was 7, 8, or 9 years old, and I would say, Leo, don't do the stupid things you're about to do. Don't start a business at 17 years old. Don't start a basement renovation business at 17 because it's too late. Start it in grade 9, right? And start a painting business instead of a basement renovation because you're choosing the hardest business you can think of, aside from roofing. Roofing is just an idiot's business because it's an outside business. You're affected by weather, and it's almost as bad as landscaping. But those two are very profitable because it has a higher barrier to entry, and people are scared to get up on roofs because you're going to fall and die in some cases. So if you haven't noticed yet, I don't mince words. I believe in having fearless communication, and people really need to have the truth, And when people look at businesses in the vacuum, that really bothers me because everything looks great in the vacuum. And I get a lot of people saying, Leo, should I buy this, this coffee shop? It's only $800,000 and it looks wonderful. And yeah, in a vacuum, yes, it looks wonderful. But when you start comparing it and you create a spreadsheet and comparing it with 10 other businesses, it's not going to look wonderful. And the same thing you should do with franchising. Don't look at it in the vacuum. Create 10 different spreadsheets of 10 different franchises and pick the best one.
Oh, yeah. They really encourage clients to talk to franchise owners, a bunch of them. Ask questions about the ones that have been in business a year, 3 years, 5 years, longer, and just kind of see if it's creating that pattern of the trajectory and the response and the vision that you're hoping to hear and want to hear. And if you're not, then you're going to walk. I'm going to encourage you to walk away.
Yeah.
Candidate walk away.
Yeah, and it's all about quality of life. I mean, we start these businesses to give us quality of life, and
Yes.
yet most people create a gold-plated jail cell when they start working with their hands, right? At least franchising gives you an opportunity to get away from working with your hands. It gives you the structure. Sometimes it takes. Yeah, I run multiple groups. One of the Facebook groups that I run has 335,000 business owners. Most of them are working with their hands and they're stuck. They're prisoners of their own business. Had they surrounded themselves with a better advisor, they could have created quality of life instead of breaking their bodies. Franchising at least is a step in that direction.
There's the key. You sought out your uncle, and the two of you fit like a glove in order to continue to develop that business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you? I'm sure you've seen different ways technology franchising has embraced technology, but also the incorporation of technology to make the customer experience better, the ability to run the business better, or even technology platform franchises. And talk about your experience there, or what you're seeing, or what you think is coming.
Technology, 3D modeling, robotics, artificial intelligence. I mean, there is no freaking better time to start a business than today, because this is a conversation we have almost every day. When I started a construction business, I used to pay about $2,000 for a newspaper ad like this. Now I can post a video on TikTok at 3.2 million views. What would it cost me to get 3.2 million views on a newspaper ad, right? I couldn't afford it. But today we have so many opportunities, technology. We can start a business or buy a franchise and grow that to $5 or $10 million. We didn't have that opportunity back then. I thoroughly believe that influence is the new currency. Now, when you combine influence and a great franchise model, and you just follow the system, don't think you're smarter, because we used to have a KPI we used to measure. We I forget what we called it back then, um, but it was something like, at what point does the franchisee believe he knows more than I do? And if you have a great system to teach them and they know nothing about the industry, we used to get people reached that level within 6 months. Within 6 months, they believed they knew more than I did. To me, that's a great testament to the system that trains them to do that, right? That's franchising again.
Well, the encouragement there would be, okay, if you have gained this experience and knowledge and you think you're at equal levels with you, Leo, not to go rogue, but to communicate what they're doing so that you can incorporate it into the whole system, right?
Yes. And, that's where the intrusion of fresh ideas come from, because they see things from a different perspective, right? And the more ideas you can bring in to keep elevating, because I keep talking about Roger's video. Even the franchise system has to keep researching, right?
Yes.
We have to keep testing and implementing, right? Especially when it comes to technology. We used to run general contractors with three people in the office, when our competition is running with 13 to 15 people in the office. So it's about using software. It's about using tools. It's about using leverage tools, right? It's not either you design a people-centric business, a people-oriented business, or systems-oriented business. And I believe people should support software, not software support people. Because people get cranky, they have bad days, they have good days, but software never has a bad day, right? Never have. It's going to work 24 hours a day for you, right?
Yes.
Doesn't need holidays, doesn't need motivation, doesn't need additional pay. So I believe in designing systems where people support the software, not software support people, to create quality of life.
Exactly. Robotics can deliver a consistent message, as detailed, even more detailed than the human, when you're providing customer service, for example. And how many times have you walked into the same facility, location, somebody else is delivering the message different from the last time, and you kind of get a different story. So you're right. Software supporting the people. So if somebody were to ask you today, or on your next TikTok program, what are the 3 most important things that I need to know before buying a franchise? What would you tell them?
Wow, that is a great question. Start with the end in mind. What is it you want to accomplish by buying a franchise? Hopefully you're saying, you want to build quality of life for you and your family, because that should be the goal. But at the same time, you want to build quality of life for your employees and your clients. Notice the order that I placed there. I truly believe it should be that order. But the whole system should be a client-centric system. Your client has to come first. I remember reading a message on someone's website in the construction industry, and this was like a promise. And they said, we promise to get back to you the same week you send us the request to quote. And I thought, what? Same week? I freak out if it passes 5 minutes.
Oh, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
If a client sends you an email and you don't respond within 4 or 5 minutes, they're on to the next client. Amazon has changed client-centric businesses. It has changed. So if your policy and procedure mail don't reflect 1 to 4 minutes to respond to that client, even if it's just, Mrs. Jones, I'm with the client right now, can I get back to you at 8 o'clock this evening? You've done something, right? But that client has to come first. If you take more than 4 or 5 minutes, you've lost that client.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of businesses don't understand that. We are in a client-centric society, and your franchise has to reflect that. And going back to the question, once you understand what it is you're trying to accomplish, pick and choose the right franchise, create that spreadsheet, have at least 10 franchises to compare to, and have at least 10 different categories. The first one should be quality of life, right? And the second one should be, how am I different from other franchises? How am I going to grow this process, right? How am I uniquely different? And how am I going to stay ahead of the curve, right? Because if you don't try to stay ahead of the curve, you're falling behind. It means other people are staying ahead of the curve. And even though you're staying at inflation or par, you're actually falling behind. So it's, what are you looking to accomplish with this franchise?
Mm-hmm. Leo, I know your time is precious. We just got a couple of minutes. I just want to cover a couple of things. And it's, first one is, do you ever have people ask you, I really like this franchise, but I'm afraid?
Yeah.
You ever get broached with the element of fear of making that
fear? The fear is humongous. Actually, I that was one of the videos that I posted this morning. That we get thousands of people joining our podcast, and people are always encouraged, and everybody says, "Yeah, I want to start a business. I want to buy a franchise, whatever that is." But a very small percentage of those people actually do. So I was actually asking the question, what are the fears, right? Because the ego, and I believe the biggest fear is the fear of failure, fear of having egg on your face in front of your neighbors and your friends. I think that's the biggest fear. I think that is a bigger fear than losing money. Fear of losing credibility, I think, is a bigger fear than losing $50,000 or $100,000, or losing 5 or 10 years of your life. So fear is major, and something that we try to tackle every day. I'm not saying we have answers, but it's something we talk about every single day.
Yeah, I always encourage my clients to, if they're feeling fear, let's talk about it.
Yeah. May I continue?
Yeah.
I believe the quickest way around that fear is looking at the business blueprint, right? If you're designing and building a house, the first thing the architect is going to do is put the design on the house on paper or on the screen, and you can see it, right? And with augmented reality, you can actually tour that house before it's built. So seeing the business blueprint, or seeing the systems or the franchise systems, and seeing every safeguard, every safety net that's built into all the different systems, once you see that and you understand why they were in there, I would say 90% to 95% of that fear will evaporate, because now you can see it, right? A lot of times the fear is fear of unknown. But we don't know. But once you see it, once you shed light of the unknown, and you can see it and touch it, and you see the systems and the statistics behind those systems, now it's a much easier thing to live with. You're never going to get rid of fear 100%, but if you can get rid of it by 95%, because you can see the systems and why they were successful for 10 or 20 other franchises, and you just follow the model. Have faith and follow the model, you too will be successful. That generally eliminates most of the fear.
I agree. Now, we're going to close, but I want you to close by giving a little more color behind your favorite quote of "Never Split the Difference" by Chris Voss.
Yes.
The meaning of that.
Why? Well, Chris Voss, I've read that book 12 times already. It's an audiobook. And he was the top hostage negotiator for the FBI. I used to deal with life and death situations, turned business consultant. So his strategies have been proven in a life and death situation, right? And it's really a negotiation book. It's a negotiation book, but it asks some tough questions like why? Why? Right? And when you start asking tough questions and you start believing in fearless conversations, Then you start asking why. Why do I want to start a coffee shop? Why do I want to, start a self-storage unit or laundromat? These are the top stupid questions, not stupid, top businesses that people want to start. And I'm thinking, why?
Yeah.
And they have no answer. It's when you have no answer, you know you're going down the wrong path.
Right. Right. So that's when you don't know the answer, you're splitting the difference. You're almost not choosing a path, I guess.
Well, it forces you to ask the right questions. And when you start asking the right questions, you start getting the right answers. And that's what the book teaches you. And the other thing I should suggest is start with an inventory list. If you're thinking about buying a franchise, start with an inventory list of your assets and skills. Hopefully on the top is, communication. It's not working with your hands. Working with your hands, you're worth 25 or 40 bucks an hour. But communication skills, inspirational skills, visionary skills. If you have those skills and you can lead and motivate people, you are going to be very successful in franchising. And if you don't have those skills, if you know how to read, you can gain those skills.
Oh, I agree. Well, God, what a tremendous amount of insight and knowledge you've given our audience today. I really, truly appreciate your participation and being a guest.
I would like to invite you to be a guest on my show, because franchising is a conversation we need to have more and more.
I would love to be a guest. We'll follow up offline, of course. And thank you.
My pleasure, Rick.
You're welcome.
You've been tuning into Is Franchising Right for You? With your host, Rick Morgin. You can find more episodes on all the major platforms, including YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Thank you for your positive reviews, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others.